Hi, it's time for story time with Mimi, and I'm going to read you The Little Red Hen. The Little Red Hen by Florence White Williams. A little red hen lived in a barnyard. She spent almost all of her time walking about the barnyard in her pickety-peck fashion, scratching everywhere for worms. She dearly loved fat, delicious worms and felt they were absolutely necessary for the health of her children. As often as she found a worm, she would call chuck, chuck, chuck to her chickies. See ya? See your little babies? They're cute. When they were gathered around her, she would distribute choice morsel of her tidbit. A busy little body was she. The cat, usually napping lazily by the barn door, not even bothering herself to scare the rat who ran here and there as he pleased. And as for the pig, who lived in the sty, he did not care what happened as long as he could eat and grow fat. One day, the little red hen found a seed. It was a wheat seed, and the little red hen was so accustomed to bugs and worms that she supposed this was some new and very delicious, perhaps very delicious kind of meat. She bit it gently and found it resembled a worm in no way whatsoever as to the taste, because it was long and slender. A little red hen might easily be fooled by its appearance, though. There she is. She found a wheat seed right there. She thought maybe it was a worm, but it's not. Carrying it about, she made inquiries as to what it might be. She found it was a wheat seed, and that if planted, it would grow up, and when ripe, it could be made into flour and then into bread. When she discovered that, she knew it ought to be planted, but she was so busy hunting for food herself and her family that naturally she thought she ought not to take time to plant it. There's the piggy in the pigsty. So she thought of the pig, upon whom time must hang heavily, and of the cat who had nothing to do, and of the great fat rat with his idle hours, and she called loudly, "Who will plant the seed?" But the pig said, "Not I," and the cat said, "Not I," and the rat said, "Not I." Look at them dancing there. "Well then," said Little Red Hen, "I will." And she did. And she went on with her daily duties through the long summer days, scratching for worms and feeding her chicks, while the pig grew fat, and the cat grew fat, and the rat grew fat, and the wheat grew tall and ready for harvest. See the rat? He's eating some cheese with a long curly tail. So one day, the little red hen chanced to notice how large the wheat was and that the grain was ripe. So she ran about calling briskly, "Who will cut the wheat? Who will cut the wheat?" And the pig said, "Not I." And the cat said, "Not I." And the rat said, "Not I." "Well then," said the little red hen, "I will." And she did. So she got the sickle from among the farmer's tools in the barn and proceeded to cut off all of the big plant. See, there she is. She's cutting it. All of the big plant of wheat. And on the ground lay the nicely cut wheat, ready to be gathered and threshed. But the newest and yellowest and the downiest of Mrs. Hen's chicks set up a peep, peep, peep in the most vigorous fashion, proclaiming to the world at large, but most particularly to the mother, that she was neglecting them. Oh, there she is. She's talking to the rat. The little red hen, poor little red hen, she felt quite bewildered and hardly knew where to turn. Her attention was sorely divided between her duty to her children and her duty to the wheat for which she felt responsible. So again, in a very hopeful tone, she called out, "Who will thresh the wheat?" But the pig with a grunt said, "Not I," and the cat with a meow said, "Not I," and the rat with a squeak said, "Not I." So the little red hen, looking, it must be admitted, rather discouraged, and said, "Well, I will then." And she did, and of course she had to feed her babies first, though, and when she had gotten them all to sleep for their afternoon nap, she went down and threshed the wheat. Then she called out, "Who will carry the wheat to the mill to be ground?" Turning their backs with a snippy glee, that pig said, "Not I." Look at that pig. He doesn't want to work. Look at that cat. Do you think he wants to help? Do you think the rat wants to help? Oh, he's playing. The pig's playing now. The cat's playing too, and the rat's playing. And that cat said, "Not I." And the rat said, "Not I." So the good little red hen could do nothing but say, "I will then." And she did. Carrying a sack of wheat, she trudged off to the distant mill. There she ordered the wheat to be ground into beautiful white flour. When the miller brought her the flour, she walked slowly all the way back to her own barnyard in her own pickety-peckety fashion. Now she has an umbrella with her. And see, there's the wheat in the bag that she's carrying. She's carrying it back. There's her babies. They're looking for their mommy. She managed, in spite of her load, to catch a nice juicy worm now and then, and had one left for the babies when she reached them. Those cunning little fluff balls were so glad to see their mother. For the first time, they really appreciated her. See, she's getting worms. There's her house with her babies running around. After this really strenuous day, Mrs. Hen retired to her slumbers earlier than usual indeed, before the colors came into the sky to herald the setting of the sun, her usual bedtime hour. She would have liked to sleep late, but her chicks, joining in the morning chorus of the hen yard, drove away her hopes of such a luxury. Even as she sleepily half opened one eye, the thought came to her that day that the wheat somehow must be made into bread. Doesn't that look good? She was not in the habit of making bread, of course, though anyone can make it if he or she follows the recipe with care, and she knew perfectly well that she could do it if necessary. So after her children were fed and made sweet and fresh for the day, she hunted up the pig and the cat and the rat. Still confident that they would surely help her some day, she sang out, "Who will make the bread?" Alas for Little Red Hen, once more her hopes were dashed. For the pig said, "Not I," and the cat said, "Not I," and the rat, "Not I." So the hen said once more, "Well, I will then," and she did. Feeling that she might have known all the time that she would have to do it herself, she went and put on a fresh apron and a spotless cook's cap. First of all, she set the dough as was proper. Then, when it was time, she brought out the molding board and the baking tins, molded the bread, divided it into loaves, and then put them in the oven to bake. All the while, the cat sat lazily by, giggling and chuckling. There she is. She's making the bread, and they're just watching her. What's he doing? He's watching her. The cat's watching her, too. And close at hand, the vain little rat powdered his nose and admired himself in a mirror. In the distance could be heard the long-drawn snores of the dozing pig. Oh, he's powdering his nose. That's what he's doing. He's putting on makeup. At last, the great moment arrived. The delicious odor wafted up on the autumn breeze. Everywhere, the barnyard citizens sniffed the air with delight. Something smells good. Oh, she has her apron and her baking cap on, and the little baby's following her. The red hen ambled in her pickety-peckety way toward the source of this excitement. Although she appeared to be perfectly calm, in reality she could only with difficulty restrain an impulse to dance and sing. For had she not done all the work on this wonderful bread? Yes, she did. She feels pretty pleased with herself. Small wonder that she was the most excited person in the barnyard. She did not know whether the bread would be fit to eat, but joy of joys when the lovely brown loaves came out of the oven. They were done to perfection, and then, probably because she had acquired the habit, the red hen called, "Who will eat the bread?" And all the animals in the barnyard, who were watching hungrily and smacking their lips with anticipation, and the pig said, "I will," and the cat said, "I will," and the rat said, "I will." But the little red hen, there's the cat, oh, there's the rat, there's the pig, there's the little red hen and her babies with the bread. She said, "No, you won't, I will." And she did. Yeah, the rat is crying. You see that? The cat looks sad. And the pig don't look too happy either, does he? He wants some bread, but she's like, "Nope, I did all the work." All right. Thank you for listening.